If your goal is to actually feed your family and cut your grocery bill, you need to grow the right things. What most people don't realize is that if you grow the right things, you can actually make meals easier, not harder. That's what I'm going to show you today. Not just what to plant, but how to use it and get the most use out of it. Because some of this stuff I didn't even know was possible until I tried it. So let's talk about your garden and what to plant. The first thing that I'm growing is potatoes because they're real food. They're calorie dense, they store well, and there are so many ways to cook them, you're never going to get bored. You can boil them, mash them, French fries, home fries, potato soup, even cold and potato salad. This is the kind of crop that actually feeds you, not just fills up your garden space. Now here's what I've learned over the years. I've grown potatoes in a lot of different ways. I've grown them vertically in coiled fence, in buckets and in grow bags, in the ground, and even in hay or straw. But my best harvests were the ones I planted in the ground and then piled a foot or more of hay or straw on top. Because what happens is you end up with potatoes growing in the soil and some in that mulch layer. And at harvest time, you're pulling potatoes out of the straw and then finding more as you dig. It's more fun than work because it feels kind of like a treasure hunt. You won't know how many potatoes you've got until you start digging. One thing though, and this part matters, you've got to keep them watered. The mulch is going to suppress the weeds and hold in some moisture. But if you let them dry out, your harvest is going to suffer. But if you stay on top of it, this is one of the easiest ways to grow a lot of food. Did you know that I often get 2 or 3 crops of potatoes in a single year? I replant right after I pull my harvest out, and bam, I've got more potatoes growing. And when my potatoes start sprouting in my pantry, I don't throw these out. These are the next ones to be planted in my potato hill for the next crop. Now, just so you know, the perfect size is about the size of a large egg. If you get some really ginormous ones, it's usually best to cut those to where they've got 2 or 3 eyes on them and chit them, which means you leave them out for a day or 2 so that that cut wound heals over. Now, if you don't do that, you're going to open yourself up to diseases. Now, this mound of dirt behind me, it doesn't look like much yet, but I'm going to rake through it, pull out some of the weeds, and plant these seed potatoes about 6 or 8 inches down. And then I'm going to cover with about a foot or more of hay or straw, water it well, and they're going to provide me with a bunch more of new potatoes. Now this is the one that people overlook because it doesn't seem exciting, and that's green beans. I know, it seems boring, and you can get them pretty cheap, so why bother to grow them? And the answer is because they're really easy to grow. They produce quickly, and if you keep picking them, they just keep coming. You're going to recover the cost of your seed many, many times over. In fact, you'll probably get so many that you'll feel overwhelmed by the bountiful harvest. But here's the best part. Fresh green beans are delicious, and there are so many ways they can be prepared. Now, my granddaughter loves green bean casserole, so we make that occasionally. But you could also toss them in some olive oil, sprinkle them with sea salt and Parmesan cheese, and add some shaved almonds. Slide that into the oven for a few minutes and you've got a restaurant quality side dish. Oh, and have you ever gone out to eat and ordered those deep fried green beans? They're usually coated with batter and deep fried until crispy like onion rings. Or maybe you should try frying them in bacon grease until they develop that crunchy, blistered sides, almost like French fries. You'd be surprised at how many ways there are to make green beans. And if you have too many, they are one of the easiest things to freeze for later. You may also decide to can them for longer storage, which is what I often do. I have green beans for the whole year. Now here's another thing. If you're tight on space, you can grow them vertically, right up a trellis, which means more food in a smaller area. Now here's something you need to know. Bush-type green beans are a little more difficult to harvest. You're bending over the whole time and your back will ache when you're done. And most bush type beans, they put out their crop in one big flush, which is perfect if you're preparing large amounts for canning or for freezing. They'll continue to give you a few beans here and there as the summer progresses. Usually I get a couple of handfuls, which is enough for a meal. And that's pretty much every day, if that's what I wanted to do. But their big bang is their first production. Now I have friends who swear by pulling their plants after the first big green bean production, and then they replant. They say they get a much larger harvest that way. And they grow so fast it isn't long before they get the next big harvest. And then there are pole type beans that grow on a trellis. Perfect for those who don't have a lot of garden space. They're easier to pick. And the more you pick, the more they grow. It's amazing how many beans you'll get from pole beans. But there is one drawback. Some of them can get stringy and tough if you don't pick them early. So plan on picking every day once they start producing. And here's the really good news for me, is that my dogs can't reach these as they climb up the trellis. Whereas my bush beans, my dog Tilly's out here harvesting her own snacks all summer long. I let her do it because it helps her to slim down a bit and she needs to lose a few pounds. And they're perfectly safe for dogs to eat. The important thing is that green beans are easy. And this is one of those crops where you feel like you're actually getting something back for all your effort. So give them a try. Now this brings me to my next crop, which is squash. Now today I'm specifically going to be talking about zucchini, but there truly are so many different varieties. You should give some of them a try. Most people think of zucchini one way, and that's usually where they stop. But this is where zucchini really shines. It's mild by itself. It takes on whatever flavor you cook with it, and that's what makes it so useful. Because you're not just growing a vegetable, you're growing something you can turn into a lot of different foods. And some of these I didn't even expect to work. One of the most surprising things I think that I've made is zapple pie, or it's also been called mock apple pie. It's zucchini and sugar, cinnamon, lemon juice, a few other spices, but you get the idea. And if you didn't know what you were eating, you'd swear you were eating apple pie. It sounds strange, but it does work. And it doesn't stop there. You can grill it right next to your burgers, or scoop out the middle and make pizza boats for a low-carb dinner. Or maybe make zucchini noodles if you want something lighter. And here's something that a lot of people don't know. You can even dry zucchini and grind it into flour and use it to replace about a third of your regular flour. And you won't even know the difference. So this isn't just one vegetable. It's multiple uses from one plant. And that's why I grow zucchini. Now this next one might not look like much, but it might be one of the most useful things that you can grow. And I'd grow it not just for the flavor, and not because it's low maintenance. You basically plant it, let it grow, and then you harvest it when it's ready. But because it does more than most people realize, and that's garlic. And I'll be honest, I've seen some interesting uses for it beyond cooking. Now this surprised me. A friend of mine gave me some garlic-infused honey recently. She takes a spoonful every day, and she says she can't remember the last time she had a cold or the flu. Now I'm not saying it's magic, but it's one of those things that people have used for a long time for a reason. And of course it stores well, and it goes into just about everything that you cook. So it's not just food, it's useful in more ways than one. Now everyone grows tomatoes, but most people are doing this wrong. And this last one might be the most important thing if you're trying to stretch your grocery money. Now here's something you probably didn't know. If you haven't already started tomato plants, then you might be able to get by with just buying one plant, because one plant can turn into several if you know what you're doing. Tomatoes actually do much better if you remove the shoots called suckers. And that's the ones that come up right in the crotch between the branches and the main stem. You can also remove these lower leaves when you're planting them deep, and those can be used as well. Now most people just throw them away, but you can actually take those and stick them in water or soil and they'll grow into new plants. So instead of buying 5 plants, you start with 1 and you multiply it. Now this gives you some choices. Say for instance, if you want to buy a couple of different varieties, but you really don't have money to buy several of each kind, buy 1 plant, multiply it by removing the lower branches and the suckers and making them into new plants. That saves money, particularly if you aren't growing your own from seedlings. And just like potatoes, tomatoes are one of the most versatile things you can grow. The tomatoes that you grow can be made into spaghetti or pizza sauce, ketchup, barbecue sauce, or put into soups and stews. There are so many ways tomatoes can stretch your budget other than eating them fresh. Now here's a tip that you'll want to use when your harvest overwhelms you. Just pick the tomatoes and wash them, and then you're going to take a sharp knife and cut an X right in the bottom of the tomato. And you're going to put them into a freezer bag and freeze them. And then you can pull them back out when you have more time. But when you do remove them from the freezer, the skins are going to slip right off, and most of the water that you would normally spend hours cooking off will separate from those tomatoes, so it actually saves you a lot of time. Now before you plant any of this, we need to talk about your soil, because that's where most people fail. They spend all of their money on seeds, plant them in poor soil, and then they wonder why nothing grows. If your soil isn't right, your garden won't be either. If you can, get compost or will-aged cow manure for cheap or for free, which is ideal. But if you can't, you've still got options. You can make something called compost tea. Just take a container and add a banana peel and some grass clippings or weeds, and then just fill it with water and cover it and let it set for a few days, a few weeks. The longer the better. And you can keep it going too. Just add more scraps and top it off with a little bit of water. A little bit of this each week and your plants are going to grow like crazy. Now I will warn you, it's going to smell. Like really, really smell. But honestly, the stinkier it is, the better it works. The plants love it. It's not fancy, but it does work. And when you're trying to grow food on almost no budget, that's exactly what you need. So if I'm trying to grow things we will eat, plant these 5 things. I'm not trying to grow everything. I'm trying to grow things that actually matter. Potatoes, beans, zucchini, garlic, tomatoes. Those are your 5 staples. Most people plant those in the garden anyway, but rarely do they know how to use them in the most efficient ways. And here's what most people miss. It's not about how much money you spend. It's about how much food you can produce from what you do spend. You don't need a big budget to start feeding your family. You just need to make the right choices. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching. Oh, and one more thing. I hope to see you again soon.